DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Use code DNVR when you sign up for a new account to get amazing odds boosts and opportunities on the website. Before we get into the show, we do need to get our DraftKings pick of the week. AJ, we have the Women's Hockey World Championships going on right now. It's the big battle, USA versus Canada. I know you're rooting for USA in that household. One of few in Winnipeg, I'm sure, rooting for them. Right now, Canada is the underdog on the money line at plus 130, though. So you could go that way with it. You could take USA to cover 1.5 at plus 195. If you're a betting man, which way you going?
USA.
USA? All right. Mm-hmm. To cover and everything, or just on the money line at minus 160?
You don't pick against bald eagles and freedom. What's wrong with you?
All right. We'll go with Team USA.
You think I'm gonna pick a maple leaf and filthy socialism? Oh, get out of here!
All right, so there you go. Starts at 4 p.m. today, so get your bets in quick. USA to cover 1.5 on Canada at the World Championships for the women, minus 1.5. No, not minus 1.5, to cover 1.5, plus 195. So just about get yourself a good little chunk of change if you bet on America on that one. Exactly right, Dylan. So get on that. You can also get into some fun stuff. They don't have it there, but I've seen they've already started to implement the single game parlays for the NHL coming up next season. So that's going to be fun. You can bet on which team is going to win and the under/over combined to make a little bit of extra cash if you got a good feeling that a blowout's coming. So get in on that once the NHL season rolls around.
I think we're going to see a lot smaller number of Avalanche blowouts this year.
Yeah, just strictly based on their competition, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Although they do get to play Arizona quite a bit still.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
We'll see. Either way, head on over to DraftKings Sportsbook. Download that top red DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use that DNVR code to get amazing odds boosts. If you don't like our pick of the week, you can always bet against us, as Randy sounds like he's going to do for Canada in the chat here. But
Kevin gets it.
There we go. Go bankrupt, but hey, if you win big enough on DraftKings, you can pay for that medical bill.
That's right.
Must be 21 or older.
That's what you're doing. That's really what a savings account is for in the United States. It's to bankroll your health care later in life.
Yep.
That's all it is.
That's my insurance company is DraftKings. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Other terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. All right, on today's show, we're going to be getting into a little bit more of the future of the Avs, who the next star player is. But before that, obviously some big news around the league today. Both Svechnikov and Sean Couturier signing just shy of $8 million deals with the Carolina Hurricanes and the Philadelphia Flyers, respectively.
Couturier dream died real quick.
Yeah, that thing is very, very dead. They were both 8 years, if I'm correct.
They're identical deals.
Yep, literally.
They're both 8 by 7.75.
Yeah, I guess the only as far as impact is, they're completely the same. Svech has that weird signing bonus this first year, but other than that,
yeah,
they're the same.
Well, and like Svechnikov's like
21, I think.
Yeah, I think he's 8 years younger.
Yeah, so, little bit of different points in their career for sure. But the contracts are virtually identical. We talked about Svechnikov a little bit earlier in the year, where this is the type of contract you expected for him, and the type of contract that says he has to be the guy for Carolina now.
Mm-hmm.
So. I don't want to call it a gamble because, look, I think we both really like Svechnikov. I think he's a very, very good player. But there is no shrinking from the moment for him anymore. He's got to do it every night.
Yeah, but at 7.75, I mean, good Lord, man. That's going to be...
In a couple of years, that could be a steal.
If he hits the kind of ceiling that certainly I still think exists.
Yep.
And he becomes one of the 5 best wings in all of hockey. 7.75 is
great deal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's if 7.75 easily pays for the player he has been so far in his career. Like it's I think it's probably a touch expensive.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't hit like that special level.
It paid for 1920 Svechnikov.
But he's also been good in the postseason. Each season he's been good in the postseason.
That's true.
And it's really, I mean, he's just getting to the special part of his career. I mean, he just turned 21 in March.
Yep.
Okay, like this dude it's just starting for him. Yeah. This is by the 4th or 5th year, this is going to be one of the absolute best contracts in all of the NHL.
Because he's in his prime. Danny in the chat asking, could this impact Burakovsky's deal? It could. It's hard, right? Because one, the age difference, Burakovsky, you're going to UFA years on.
Burakovsky's entire next contract is a UFA deal. There's no more RFA years left for Burakovsky. Yep. They've all been bought. They're over with. His next contract will be a pure UFA.
And that deal is going to be massively influenced by what he does this year.
Yeah.
Svech already has a 60-point season under his belt. Berkey hasn't even sniffed that number. So
yeah, and Svech, I mean, you knew Svech was going to make more than Berkey. Like, that was obviously going to happen. But it being just 7.75 should kind of put a ceiling where the Burakovsky
a little
goes.
bit, yeah.
Because if Burakovsky goes out, let's just galaxy brain. If Burakovsky goes out and scores 35 goals and has a 75-point season, I don't think he gets $7.5 million in free agency.
Yeah, I mean, Landy is 2 years removed from a 30-goal season, and he got 7 flat.
Yeah.
So
I'm just saying, I don't think it should have too much impact on Burakovsky at all. Really, I don't think that it is.
I can't imagine. Certainly, the Avalanche have any interest in signing Berkey to an 8-year deal either. That would be a very large commitment for ultimately a guy that plays on your second line.
Yeah, I can't see something. Yeah, I think Zach is right in the neighborhood with 5 years at 5.5. He's right in that right neighborhood. The problem is that there's a long history of guys in his age range on deals like that who fall apart. I mean,
there's also a long history of those guys getting hella overpaid by somebody in free agency.
Yeah, and that's part of it. But I mean, you look at that disastrous 2016 UFA class.
Yeah.
You know, those guys, a lot of those guys were good players for a long time.
Yep.
I mean, Kyle Lepozo and Louis Eriksson, there were no real signs of
decline.
That level of decline for sure. They'd been good players through their careers.
And then the meteor hit.
And that's the fear. That's my fear with Burakovsky. It's that when he hits the wall.
Right. Well, and to be fair to Berkey, I do think the way he plays is fairly sustainable into his 30s.
Yeah. I mean, we always think that. You always think that with your guy.
Yeah, of course you do.
If Andre Burakovsky was, I don't know, playing on a different team. If Andre Burakovsky was a Chicago Blackhawk right now, would we be looking at him as a guy that, oh, hey, the Avs next summer, they should definitely give that guy $5.5 million? We definitely think he'll age well into his 30s. Would we feel that way? I don't know the answer to
Again,
that.
it depends on the term, right? If you talk about 3-4 years, you get him till he's 30, 31. You feel pretty okay with it, right?
You feel great about that,
right.
But where's the history of UFAs that are 27 years old?
I know. I get it. I do.
Signing 4-year deals. It's like Paul Stastny, end of list.
Yeah. But and as you said, even with someone like Berkey, if he wakes up one day and one of those skills just doesn't quite cut it anymore, you can see a game fall apart very quickly.
Yeah, and that's why I said recently I think that he could age. I mean, just a couple days ago I said that I think that he could age kind of the way that Hayduk did.
Yep.
Without, obviously without the Hayduk 50-goal season thrown in there.
Right. That's not going to happen. I guess the one big concern too is we know he's had wrist problems already in his career. So
yeah, he had wrist and finger problems early in his career, but it hasn't been an issue in Colorado.
It hasn't been, but
if he can get to if he can get to like the Hayduk zone, for those couple of years from 2007 to like
11 or 12.
Yeah, 2011, where he was good for 20 goals a year, but he was more of like a 40, 50 point guy at that point in his career. That's where he should be.
Yep.
So this wasn't not the direction I really wanted to go with this.
But here we are, yeah.
Totally okay. Because it is a natural question as contracts start to come in, and with Burakovsky's pending UFA,
yeah,
you start to look at it and say, what's the impact here? Honestly, I think the Couturier deal has more of an impact on Kadri's next deal.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, Kadri's not going to come within a moonshot of that contract.
Couturier, beyond just the defensive production, has been a near per game player for the last, 4 seasons? So
it's, yeah. Not that anybody was too overly concerned there, but it's fine.
Yeah, again, a more extreme version of the Berkey contract where Couturier has probably lowered the ceiling of Kadri's deal by a good chunk. Again, Couturier did sign an 8-year deal, which you'd have to be crazy to sign Kadri to anything more than like 3 or 4, I would think.
Yeah, I think Kadri's perfectly in line for a 4 or 5 year deal.
Yeah. Even 5 would be tough, man.
I mean, it's the NHL. They value centers. 2Cs are so hard to find. Even at his age already, I think it's easy. So
takes him to 36.
I mean, some of that would also be number dependent, and
of course, right.
If
you're paying him $4 million a year or whatever, you're like, yeah, whatever. But
if he comes back at the 4.5 that he's at right now for 5 years, like, how much do you hate that?
A lot less, yeah.
I don't really know the answer to that, but that's because I want to know what he does this year. So
that. Unfortunately, kind of the answer for both of them to a certain extent is where
also
they're at right now.
In the other way that the Couturier deal impacts Kadri is that every center that goes off the board makes Kadri that much more valuable in UFA next year.
Yeah, if he ends up being the last one hanging around, you can see.
Yeah,
how
I mean,
get desperate, but
there was a team that was gonna give Gabe Landeskog $8 million a year because he was just the top forward in free agency.
Yep.
That was the easiest way to get the best player available for just money. So those guys are always going to get paid, and I think that's where, as we said though earlier this week, when you try and look at next year's UFA class and say, oh, that class has a lot of names in it. This is why you don't take it seriously a year out. Those guys, most of those guys aren't going to hit the market.
Definitely the case. That's just how it works every year, basically.
Yep.
All right. Well, Before we get into our main topic, we are brought to you all by Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. You can get them down at the DNVR bar, of course, but also check a local liquor store near you for their Good Company hard seltzer. It's delicious stuff. I really can't recommend it enough. All of the flavors are good, and that just sums it up. Some of their like original stuff, I call it dangerous because you basically can't even taste the alcohol in it. That's how good it is.
That's definitely dangerous for people like me that don't really like drinking alcohol very much.
Yeah.
If it's like drinking a spicy juice, then that's where I get in trouble. Because it is dangerous. Because I'll be like, "Oh, this is delicious. I don't taste any alcohol in this."
Throw a couple more of these back. Yeah.
This isn't miserable at all. Let's roll.
So there you go. If you need the casual drinking experience, I think you can still get the buckets of them down at the bar as well. So
I had to drop the C word on me, huh? It's like that.
What did I say?
The casual drinking experience.
Oh yeah.
Unbelievable. Thought we were friends.
Well, I like drinking casually. I don't want to be an alcoholic particularly either. I do like Breckenridge Brew though. So check them out. Use their Breck Beer Locator online. And then head on over to StravaCraftCoffee.com as well. You can get 25% off with them with code DNVR25 on your first purchase. If you want to try it before you buy, we have them cold brew down at the bar as well. So got you covered with everything at the bar. You get 20% off basically for life with Strava when you sign up for their subscription service already. No, I'm not an alcoholic as much as the chat likes to think that I'm an alcoholic. But
yeah, it's the perception versus the reality on Rudo and alcohol consumption is
it's a little off, boys.
It's pretty significantly incorrect.
We've been talking hockey for like 15 minutes, my guy. I don't know what you want. We just spent 15 minutes talking about Svech, Couturier, Burakovsky, and Kadri.
Yeah, I tuned in at the wrong time. Tuned in at the ad break. Yep. Clearly.
Speaking of which, the bar, go down there. Hang out with us. Support us a little bit. If you're not going to go down to the bar, get DNVR annual membership. Get some of that awesome action, whether it be the free shirt, the big beers at the bar. You can get, obviously, access to all of our amazing content, that AJ, Evan, Wright, all that sorts of stuff. A bunch of other awesome stuff as well, like the DNVR Lounge. So, yeah, it's a good time. Come join us, support us, do that kind of thing. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Getting into the main topic of today, the Colorado Avalanche will have a next star on their hockey team. Obviously, McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen, Makar, none of these dudes are expecting to go anywhere. They're still going to be here and be monsters for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm. So in the last couple of years, Rantanen has signed a 6-year deal. Mm-hmm. Makar, 6-year deal, and Girard, a 7-year deal.
Yep.
After Svechnikov's deal today, I was just kind of wondering, what's next for who's the next guy?
Yep.
That the Avs give an actual long-term deal to. Because I think the centers around the big two prospects that we've been talking about from the 19 draft in Byram and Newhook.
Yep.
But I think that there's going to be enough in front of each of them that maybe they don't get there.
Do you want to start with Byram or Newhook?
Yes.
Okay. I want to start with Byram.
Okay.
Because I think I agree with you more on Byram, especially. When you look at the Ev system, especially as it is right now today, Makar's going to be working PP1. Zero doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very good chance that Girard and Taves continue to work together on PP2. Now, I'm sure injuries or just because Byram's playing well, he'll see some rotation into that. But I think it's a lot harder because, look, let's face it, there's only 6 defensive spots. And unless they YOLO Byram up with Makar, which could happen, but I don't think it will, at least to start this season, he just doesn't have a ton of runway to use his ELC to earn the big dollar, the big star contract, to work his way up into an everyday top pairing type of guy this early in his career. And I've been saying this since the second he was drafted. The Avs don't need Bowen Byram to be a star. They need him to be an effective two-way player like Eric Johnson has been for them when he's healthy. So I don't think there's nearly as much urgency there to really push Byram into superstar level status. He just needs to be a rock solid guy for them that can play in all situations.
So regardless of what they need, shouldn't they be putting him in a position to just go for it?
Look,
I mean, to be the guy that, like,
every
you draft a guy 4th overall. You're thinking that this guy's going to play on a top pairing for you.
Eventually, yes. And look, if he shows up and balls out and becomes a star, great. You give him every opportunity to do that. But, you know, he had 2 points in, 19 games last year?
Yeah.
And you and I would both agree, look, you can obviously see there's underlying skill there to bring that number up easily. But he's got to earn it a little bit, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's just based on having Makar, Girard, and Taves in front of him. I don't see how you can really start him higher than the 4th D on the team. And realistically, you're probably attaching him to like an EJ, right? For him to get a little bit of mentorship back there.
Maybe. We've talked about, we've roster baited what they start with.
We don't have to get too deep.
We know that they're gonna whatever they start with and whatever they finish with, they could ultimately be
different. Yeah.
They could be the exact same, but I bet there's a lot of experimentation along the way.
All I'm saying is
no.
It's not. No, it's not.
Unless it's like, he's my beau.
But like with Byram, yes. If you ask me, will he be a top pairing D for the Avs? My answer would be yes. Will he be a top pairing D this year? Certainly not every night, and I think probably not for the majority of the season. If only because unless he has a camp that is way above and beyond expectation, I don't see him getting the minutes to start the season.
Okay.
It's just what I see there. And the reality,
5 established veterans surrounding him. There's good reason to believe that that's the case. But we've also seen, even last year, when Byram looked comfortable,
they were willing to let him roll.
Makar.
They were willing to let him roll to a certain extent.
Yeah, like they put him next to Makar in the middle of games, and we're like, all right, let's just see how this goes. And it was interesting. I mean,
I think
obviously the version of Byram that we saw last year, you know, we didn't get to 19 games, just isn't very much of them. But the advanced defensive game was, I think, the thing that heartens me and makes me think that we might just have another superstar on our hands. That's the thing that teenage defensemen do not look at. Rasmus Dahlin. They do not roll into the NHL and play that way defensively.
And
they push pucks. They do all of that. They get up the ice. They have highlight reels, right? Byram was awesome defensively. And that's the thing that I didn't expect, and I think caught everybody else a little bit off guard was the fact that his defensive game was already way more advanced. I thought that he was going to look like that in year 3. And he looked like that as a teenager in his first 19 games. It was so good.
You're treading on a conversation that we probably don't have the time or want to get into of quantifying superstars that play defensively.
Yeah, I mean, look, if he ends up with Jacob Slavin, is anybody upset?
No, of course
not. That he's not like an offensive superstar? Does anybody have a problem with that? No.
But when you're talking about the next star in Colorado, defense first players tend to take a little bit of a back seat. Now, I think both of us believe he has significantly more offense to show than he did last year in his 19 games. But
yeah, I feel like what was his? It was 2 points in 19 games.
Yep.
Just for funsies, that is an 82 game pace of 8 points.
Yeah.
9 if you want to be generous and round up.
And you saw flashes of it regularity where he was making good to great offensive plays that just weren't quite clicking.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see how there's more there, but the question is, where does that ceiling end up on a team, especially where if Makar is healthy, Bowen Byram will never be on PP1, full stop.
Sure.
It's just reality of the role that he's going to play, but
I'm not that worried about the concussion because it was not a long-term thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, you look at Connor Timmins missed an entire season and he was totally fine. Like, you always worry about the next hit, but Byram, it just wasn't like he was healthy the last month.
Yep.
They just wouldn't play him.
And this is a thing too where I'm not going to call Byram a super physical player, but he wasn't afraid to hit people in juniors. He understands how to take contact. He has a body type that takes contact well.
He's not a small guy.
Yeah. So
like this, which is weird because the size police don't ever seem to want to talk about that part.
Yep.
That like their smallest guy is Sam Girard, who's not physical and is not a physical defenseman, and he doesn't play that kind of game at all. The rest of these guys are fine.
Yeah.
Like Hale Makar has a highlight reel of just big hits.
Yep.
Through 2 seasons, and he would be the other guy under 6 foot. Otherwise, the rest of these guys, they're just not. They're not small. Byram is not a small guy. I mean, he had 13 hits he had 33 hits last year in 19 games. And hits aren't a great stat. They're super inconsistent. But it gives you an idea that there was a level of physicality there.
He's clearly not shying away from the contact at very least.
Right. If he were to keep up that kind of pace, let's just say, just statistically speaking here, if he had that kind of pace across a whole season, he'd have 142 hits in a year.
Yep.
So I just don't. His physicality is not a problem for me. I think the question, the big question after 19 games, if we only look at 19 games in the NHL, the biggest question is where's the offense going to come from? But you and I watched that guy destroy the WHL.
Yep. Just
for multiple years.
On fire, basically.
Like, he became the first defenseman in WHL history to lead the postseason in scoring. This isn't a guy who struggles to produce offense.
Yep.
He's got to figure out how to do it in the NHL, but it's happening. And it's going to happen. I'm not worried about it. Kevin asked, would it be disappointed if he turned into Adam Pelech? No. But yes. Because he's shown way more offense in his career to this point than what Adam Pelech is putting up with the Islanders. Like, if he's that good of a player, you're happy, but you're absolutely a little bit disappointed because Adam Pelech had 14 points last year.
This is the thing with Byram is, and honestly, this will be true of New Hook as well when we get into that conversation, is they're on a little bit of a clock, right? It first of all shows how unbelievably ridiculous it was that Cale Makar just dropped into this league and was immediately a friggin' god.
He was that good immediately.
Yeah. But the way these ELCs work is Byram has 2 years left to earn a star level contract. Realistically, if he doesn't have a big breakout offensively this year, you're probably looking at a bridge deal for his next contract.
I don't know how true that is, because this year obviously is going to be important, but next year, you look at 22-23, we think by that point he should be totally solidified in their top 4. Mm-hmm. No matter what else happens on the roster, he should be a mixture in the mix in that top 4.
Yep.
He should be on power play 2 next to Sam Girard over Devon Taves, in my opinion, after a full year. I think, given I don't trust the combination of Johnson and Murray to stay healthy, and those are going to be probably their top 2 PK guys going into the season. I think both
Byram,
I think both Byram and Taves are going to get chances there, and I think Taves is the safer guy to put there, given that he did so much heavy lifting on the PK already this past season, that taking him off of the second power play unit and putting Byram there is eventually where they get to. I think that's where it's headed. So he might be able to steal 5 to 8 power play points per season. When Makar gets hurt, he could get elevated to that top unit in time.
Yeah,
right now Sam Girard is first in line, but over time we'll see how that develops. I don't know.
Anything down the path of injuries to Makar, it's hard to predict anything there.
But I think Byram will get offensive opportunities. And I think he's just good enough. Very tentative last year with the puck, and really 21 shots in 19 games. We know that he's going to find a comfort level.
That he's going to be shooting more than that. For sure.
Yeah, where he's going to be a lot more comfortable, because he had 43 shot attempts in those 19 games. So it wasn't like it wasn't super shy. But there were those are skewed a little bit, because if you actually get into his game log, you'll see that there are a lot of games where he doesn't do a lot of shooting, if any at all. But I don't know, his rookie year was so weird, man. We're talking about 19 games.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a dude who, if you look at his game log, he has a bunch of shots in his first 10 games. And he doesn't have any hits very many hits or block shots. And then after that, he stops shooting, and he loads up, and 3 or 4 hits per game.
Yep.
In 15 minutes of ice time.
Yeah, it's definitely very weird for sure.
It's such a strange usage, or such a strange development of his play, as it was almost like he understood, I'm going to get more ice time if I'm really good defensively, so that's where I'm going to focus.
Yep.
And just assumed offense has always come to me. I've always been good at this part of it. I'll figure it out. And I think that's why I've got Byram ahead of New Hook as the next star player, because Justin, he is eligible for the Calder again this year. Byram,
less than 25 games. He's eligible.
So he is eligible for the Calder this year. I wouldn't pick him because of what we're talking about, that opportunity. But this year, and then you get to the end of next year, man, and I just think.
Well, and I agree with you, especially at the end of next year, but. My question is, what is his perception going to be, especially if he has a solid year but not super breakout this year? Is he going to get that long-term deal on one solid year and one very good year if it happens next year?
Yes.
You think so?
Sam Girard did.
Look, if Byram wants to sign for $5 million forever, I'm all for it. I would do that in a heartbeat. But
I mean, if the Avs rolled in and said, "Hey, we'll give you a 7-year deal at $5.5 million," If you could get Byram to sign that deal today,
Oh yeah, well,
without, and he's only got the 19 games played, would you take that deal?
yes, without a doubt. But that's kind of my point. Is I would expect someone like Byram to say, I want more than that. If I take a bridge, maybe I have an opportunity to earn quite a bit more there. Especially because it's going to be 2 years. If he takes another 2-year bridge, are you potentially looking at the end of the flat cap?
Sure. I mean, where does he get more opportunity in Colorado? I mean, you're talking they've got Taves' contract ends and they just let him go, or like Girard and Makar are here.
Yeah,
Where's his? I mean, his opportunity isn't going to drastically change throughout the next 5 years. That I think all of a sudden his numbers are going to take a huge leap. I think that this year I'm expecting 25 points.
Yeah, sure.
And then next year I'm expecting 35 points. And I think that would justify a long-term deal. But if he gives the kind of defensive play that he had as a teenager, if he can repeat that,
I guess I'm not as confident in you in the Avs using him in a top pairing role in this coming year.
I don't think Jared Bednar's gonna be able to resist.
Yeah.
Especially because
don't get me wrong, I'm all for it. It's just that I don't trust the Avs to do it.
The other thing is that Taves and Girard were so good together, and as good as Taves and Makar were together, using Girard as the guy that kind of rotates around, we saw had a ceiling of effectiveness there. Yeah. Not using Makar as the guy that rotates around, he elevates everybody. But if you could just get Byram there and just drop him in there, and maybe he doesn't justify it immediately, but you let him work into that role. To me, that's the top four. Your best alignment, your best case alignment for the Avs, if we're going to roster bait this out, is Byram next to Makar, Taves and Girard together, and then Murray and Johnson.
That's the lineup I would run too.
Which turns into McDonald and McDermott by the end of the season.
Yeah, and you deal with that. But I'm just not sure if the Avs are going to be willing to commit to that fast enough or often enough for Byram to really break out in the immediate. With that being said, I think Byram gets there. I think he will be a star. I just don't know if it's as soon as next season.
Just saying, defensively,
I know he's insane, but
-8% last year
as a 19-year-old, it's insane. But anyway, we do need to head on over. When you're 19 years old, playing in the NHL, hitting dudes, playing defense like that, it takes some manicured balls to be able to pull that off. So I'm sure Byram uses Manscaped. Y'all should too. Head on over to Manscaped. Use code DNVR20 to get 20% off when you order. And if you get the Perfect Package 4.0, you also get free shipping as well. Be sure to hit that up. Get the Lawnmower 4.0 and all of their other amazing products. It also comes with deodorant, toner, some other trimmers as well. So be sure to check all that out. Check out their boxers as well. They're like ridiculously comfortable. So those are my wife is begging them to make like a sports bra out of that same material because she uses like my boxers as like from them as like workout shorts because they're so comfy. So Manscaped, if you're listening, make a sports bra. Apparently,
I wore the Manscaped boxers the other day. They're very comfortable.
There you go. So Manscaped, you know what to do with that. Check them out again. Use that DNVR code. Also, hit up Chevalier Mortgage. Both Mike and Virginia have been doing it for a long time here in Colorado. They're diehard sports fans as well. And Mike is a certified financial planner, which AJ said this on a show a couple weeks back. But it kind of blows my mind that, like, why isn't every want a certified financial planner when it comes to helping you buy homes, right? You would think.
Yeah, I mean, if you get into selling homes, it just also seems like the synergy of being a financial planner is like, hire me for these dual skills.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm significantly more prepared for this situation than if you just hire one of each.
Yep. Just got you double covered right there.
Mm-hmm.
So hit up Mike in Virginia at dnvrmortgage.com. You can get a free consultation as well as win yourself some free DNVR merch. You can also call Virginia directly at 303-257-6578. Michael Chevalier, NMLS 1931006, Virginia Chevalier 1910631. And then head over to Green Mountain Dental Group as well. We know we're giving you a bunch of amazing foods and drinks to eat, but you got to be taking care of your teeth as well after you eat them. Jump on it. When you get a cleaning, x-ray, and exam with Green Mountain Dental Group, they will give you a free Sonicare toothbrush to make it brushing your teeth super easy. Electric toothbrush basically does the work for you in your mouth. So jump on it, get your teeth looking nice and clean. All right, third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Alex Newhook. This is an interesting one because I can 100% see why you would put Byram over Newhook as the next star in Colorado, despite maybe a little bit tougher of a road of opportunity for him. One, his play in the NHL was much easier to plug and place, and that's not to take anything away from Newhook. Newhook had 5 points in 12 games, but certainly in the regular season, we saw Newhook not really manage to earn much extra time. Yes, in the playoffs in Vegas, Bednar got a little bit YOLO and put him with the big guns, but significantly small sample size even compared to Byram's 19 games there for Newhook.
Yeah.
With that being said, this season it's basically a tale of two stories here, and that's what the Avs are willing to commit to with Newhook. Are they willing to drop him in on the second line and give him a leash to figure it out up there and be a second line player in the NHL right away? Or is he going to have to work his way through the bottom six and figure it out? Now, if he starts in the bottom six, unless he absolutely goes off, it's going to be hard for him to develop into a star in the immediate, certainly. In the top six, there's no guarantees either, but I think both of us agree he has the potential to be too good to be a 2C on a lot of teams somewhere down the line.
Yeah, the guy that I've always compared him to has been Matt Duchene.
Yep.
Who at his best was a 65, 75 point guy.
Mm-hmm.
If Newhook gets to that level, the Avs are
monsters.
Especially with the defense that they've got in place. They're such a problem.
Yep.
If Newhook lives up to his potential. You could make the argument that Newhook is more important than Byram. Just because of the guys.
Their lack of center depth. Yeah.
Yeah. Where Newhook hitting as a center it changes their future.
Yep.
Significantly. Whereas if Byram is a complete bust, they at least have those guys that they still have.
Byram being a star creates a comedy of riches on defense.
Yeah. And then you start to get into what if they get really lucky and Justin Barron is also great.
Right, yeah. Hellison becomes a defensive D on your bottom pair, and it's like, this defense is actually dumb.
Yeah. What a change, man. I mean, do you remember the 15 years they couldn't find a defenseman?
Yep. Their number one defenseman for a while was Jan Heda, man.
I
He was their
mean,
best defenseman.
they had Eric Johnson in his heyday, who was pretty good.
Yeah, but he was injured, so it was Jan Hayden.
But it was like Eric Johnson and Tyson Berry and
yeah. And then a bunch of guys, man, after that.
Yeah. No, see Kevin is not correct here. If Byram pans out, it's not time to talk about trading Gerard. That's where you talk about trading Taves.
Yeah, if Byram pans out, you lose Taves at the end of this deal and you don't care.
Or you
get value, sure, whatever.
That's the guy that you move in year 4 of that deal.
Yep.
That's the only, and that's only if you absolutely have to. Otherwise, you just swim in success.
Ride it out, yeah.
Yeah, you're not in a hurry to do any of that. But it's...
You ask Devon Taves if he wants to win more cups than the other Taves at that point.
Boy, they got to win one first, man. They got to get to a conference final first.
I hear what you're saying, but
so
I'm saying if the
I'm not going down that road again. I talked all about that shit last year, and it just...
All I'm saying is if the Avs do win a cup, then maybe there's something to entice Taves to come back on a decent contract.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because everybody loves living in Denver.
Yeah, that's one of the things. We talk about this on the show maybe like once or twice a year, but almost every hockey player that comes here absolutely loves the area. Yeah, they love living here.
They stick around. Which is so interesting because there are current players who, as soon as the season ends, they bounce.
Yep.
They get out of here. And it's like, you guys definitely haven't played in other cities.
Yep.
Because you'll see veterans who have been well-traveled in their careers. They get to Denver, and they're like, yep.
Just the place.
Yeah. I always found that interesting. Anyway, not the point. Denver rules. Of course we would feel that way. But with Newhook, I think that it's not even so much about where he starts this year. It's about the growth that he shows.
Sure.
Because there were moments last year, but the thing that really surprised me the most was, and maybe concerned me the most, was how little of an impact he made with his skating. Because his skating has always been part of his appeal for me. What made him so dangerous, what made him so lethal at lower levels was he was such a good skater. And then when he got to the NHL, it never popped for me. I never saw it as something that he was utilizing and giving him an advantage anywhere. And that's a thing that's supposed to show up on day one. That's a thing. A guy just steps on the ice. He's a really good skater, and that's bam.
Yeah,
it works. It works really well. Like Jean-Luc Foudy could show up. Jean-Luc Foudy could show up in the NHL tomorrow, or day one of training camp, the first regular season game, whatever. And that's going to be the thing that you notice about him. That's going to be the thing that immediately fits into the NHL. The rest of his game, who knows? But with Newhook, it was just surprising to me that his skating just didn't stand out at all when he was in the NHL. And I guess that was a concern, but it's also kind of gives me some peace of mind because I'm like, that will happen. And when that happens,
and you haven't seen it yet, and he's functioning. Yeah,
exactly. Like when he gets comfortable and when he figures out how to make that useful, when he gets to weaponize that, if you will, it's gonna put him on a different level, and I'm excited for that. There were also a lot of rookie jitters with him.
Definitely,
there were a lot of little puck fumbles.
Yep,
a little moments where you're just like, he's got the nerves.
Yep. He was put in
a tough spot, tough situation. I think everybody understands that.
Yep.
That it was just a lot was asked of him really quickly.
Yep.
And we'll see how this goes, but I'm I had him above Byram in our prospect rankings the last time we did them, and
a
both of
year
those guys
ago.
were there. Yeah. And I don't know, Byram defensively was so good in the NHL. I can't get over it that it was that good.
Is, like, you're talking about two different prospects here, because Byram is so solid. It's easy to see him in the lineup every night, given opportunity, given playing time. Because of that, it's just his problem is the people in front of him. Newhook, there's not nearly as many players in front of him, but can he be consistent enough to consistently get that opportunity? Or is the Avalanche organization going to be willing to give him enough leash to work through some of the kinks at times? Because make no mistake, there's going to be, what the hell is that?
It's a light
that changes colors.
It's a solar light that's sitting on the desk.
All right then. But yeah, with Newhook, there's going to be lulls this season. Expect that. Be prepared for it. It's going to happen. The question is how much is he allowed to work through them in call it a second line role or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and wherever he starts, again, it's not so much about where he starts, because I think he's just going to continue to move up.
Yeah.
But the real question is, and Justin kind of touches on it, and that's this comment here. He says start him at 3C and maybe move him around. Does he get time at center at any point? Because that's where his ceiling is, right? He's been ticketed for 2C since the day he was drafted. And it's just a matter of how he gets there. But where do you get him time at center this season? Do you start him at 4C just to get him some center experience? Or would you rather him on the left wing on your second line to just maximize your lineup?
I'd rather have him on my left wing at the second line. And if he's playing well on the left wing second line, then you start having conversations about how can we get him reps at C.
Okay.
Because I just think there's too much value in having him up the lineup. Now, obviously, if you put him on second line left wing and he plays 15 games and really struggles, then you have to have a conversation. But I think it's too important for the Avs to give him opportunity up the lineup, especially with their lack of a proper answer to the second line wing. The center thing, you figure it out as you go.
Okay.
Get the most you can out of Newhook to start. And then, look, injuries are going to happen. Maybe you want to give him some 3C time if Jost is not the guy that he was at the end of last season.
That's, I think, one of the other things. We haven't really talked about it much, but if Jost falters, that's the spot.
It's real easy to drop Newhook in there, yeah.
That's the spot, man.
Yep.
It's right there. Hell, it could be right there with Jost on the wing with Nichushkin.
Yeah. Let Newhook drive the offense there a little bit.
There were issues with Kadri last year, so...
Yeah, Kadri really struggled on the wing last year.
Yeah, well, he's never been good on the wing. And I think the little look-see that Newhook got was just that.
Yep.
It was, I just want to take a peek at this while I can.
Yep. So, it's... I think that's one of the harder decisions this year is how do you get Newhook center reps that are quality? 4C reps are, yes, he's taking the center role. Yes, he gets to take faceoffs, whatever. But there's a world of difference between 4C and 2C.
Yeah. I don't want him at 4C, even just to get him any kind of center time. Yep. I don't want that. I will say, if that happens,
it's fine.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not going to be the guy on Twitter who's like, this is unacceptable. I just won't like it. It's not my thing. I don't think that it's a good idea.
It's just not as effective as it could be, certainly.
It's like, if you want him on center, if you want him to play center, give him the Jost job and have Jost be your 4C. You know Jost will do just fine there.
Yep.
If you want to maximize Newhook, you put him at left wing. Either way, this is it's hard. Man, it's tough.
Yeah, it is.
I came into this conversation thinking he should be the second. He should be your left wing on your second line.
I'm still.
But I now that I'm talking my way through this, I like the idea of putting him at 3C and Jost at 4C to see how Newhook does there, and just to give him some center experience, to give him a different look at the game. And especially early in the season, because they're going to use the latter half of the season to go for it. They're going to be chasing a division title. They're hoping they're chasing a President's Trophy. They're chasing home ice. They're doing all of those things that higher end NHL teams do. They're not going to be tinkering with, let's try this kid here, that kid there. And I like the idea of putting Newhook as your 3C. Also, because I think that it might help balance some of the offense. Because if you put him next to Nichushkin, and then you put, for right now, let's just say JT Compher on that right side, I think that's an intriguing group. Because you have a couple of guys who can shoot in Newhook and Compher, and one guy who just drives the hell out of play. And you have two guys with long histories of being quality shot suppressors in both Compher and Nuke to kind of help balance some of the defensive deficiencies you're going to have with Newhook as a rookie center.
I don't hate the idea of balance that you're talking about here, but I'm just not willing to leave a gaping hole in my top 6 to do it. And
my thing though, maybe my focus here is not so much making the Avs the best version of themselves right now.
Sure.
It's getting Newhook prepped to take over Kadri's job in a year.
I understand.
Because if he plays left wing all year this year and they're all good and well and they're convinced he can slide over and take Kadri's job at center, then he's going to have to go through all of the center growing pains next year. Now, some guys can make that adjustment pretty easily, and it may not be a big deal at all. It could just be a thing where he moves over, there are a couple of bumps in the road, and by December of 2022, he's completely fine. Bam. Then, and it's not a big deal at all. For some guys, though, you don't know how it's going to go. And I'm just sitting here saying this could be a good opportunity to both plan and build for the future while being competitive right now.
Again, I hear what you're saying, and I guess I just think they can do a little bit more of both. You can put him at the 2 left wing job at the start of the season. You can get him reps as a top 6 player in the NHL. And once he has gotten comfortable there, let's face it, injuries are going to happen or something is going to happen where then you can start working him in at reps at 3C or 2C or whatever. And you can get him that center experience after the fact, once he's gotten comfortable as a top 6 player in this league. And look, there are some assumptions here. For all we know, he could show up, start in the top 6 left wing spot and look horrible there, and then they have to adjust. But I don't think they need to be hyper aggressive with moving him into the center position. They just need to take advantage of it when the opportunity presents itself.
Okay.
Yes, especially given what I've seen from Newhook at the college level. Going back to C for him will be like coming home. I don't think he'll have any trouble with the adjustment beyond the face-off circle, which we've talked about before. But
yeah, which, I mean,
yeah,
he gonna get crushed.
Yep, just accept that.
So you're less worried about the future transition than I am.
Correct.
Okay. That's fine.
Yep. So, for one rare occasion where maybe AJ and I disagree a little bit on this show, where I'm leaning more confidence in Newhook's development in the immediate, compared to him leaning on Byram developing into a star over the next year, 2 years, which, look, no doubt about it, arguing over which player is going to be the Avs next star because there's more than one is a good place to be.
It's pretty funny.
But, so I guess final thoughts. Yeah.
The final question that I'll have for you: do
Yeah.
either one of them get a long-term contract as their second deal?
Yeah. Can I just say yes and not specify?
Yeah.
Then yes.
I asked if either one of them got it. So
I
yeah,
think
you can do that.
I think one of them will get one. I would be hard pressed to tell you which, though. It's just going to depend on results.
Okay. I think so too, and I think it's going to be both.
Byram. It could be both too. That's true. I just don't want it to be both, but I don't want to commit to that. Like, there's a world where Newhook has a 25-point season this year, and you go, the Avs really need more than that from him, you know?
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see to a certain extent. But clearly, the Avs are in a good spot at the moment when it comes to the immediate future, because we get to do a show like this. So looking forward to watching the development of both Byram and Newhook, and who knows down the line what other opportunities might be there for players. Whether, it's Nick's talking about Martin Kaut here. Maybe Sampo Ranta goes off and finds himself some opportunity. I know AJ's pulling for Foodie to get some games this year, possibly as well, if he does come to the AHL.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that the fun answer? Is that Newhook is your 3 center and Sampo Ranta is your 2 left wing?
There you go. Just totally go with the kids.
Yeah, Martin Kaut is next to Nichushkin and Newhook on your third line.
You're all Helm buried, Maltsev buried.
Well, Helm, Maltsev, and Comfer is your fourth line. And you're just whatever. Man. Sorry, LOC.
Someone's gotta sit.
Yeah. Or you just don't play Darren Helm, and you have Maltsev, LOC, and Comfer as your fourth line.
There you go.
You say no old guys allowed.
We just got 5-10 heroic Tuesday, Joey.
Yeah, we're not gonna have. I don't know how we're supposed to do any kind of prog tonight with the raid leader.
Yeah, I'm gone, so it's gonna be tough to, especially Payne Smith. But
yeah, our 2 polls on it was not sufficient enough for us to be like, all right, this is how we do it.
Yeah, and then I'm also 310 Mythic with my other guild, but that's a weird flex, but okay.
Yeah, wow. Look at you, big shoots.
You 1010 Mythic out here? You in a top 1,000 guild? I guess 1010 Mythic right now would be like a top 200 guild, but anyway. We're going to get out of here for the day. Thank you, everyone, watching, listening, however you consume the podcast. We appreciate all of y'all a ton. Friday tomorrow, I don't know if we'll do something fun or if we'll do a little bit more of a look at the future of the Avs. We'll see one way or the other.
It might be a good day to look around the league. People have been asking for us to talk about the league as a whole.
Sure.
The problem is that that's a really generic request, and what exactly do we talk about for an hour?
Do you want to talk about
the league? So
league futures and laugh at Minnesota's $15 million in dead cap for the next couple of years for 45 minutes?
Yeah. And then look at their prospects and start to cry because their prospects are super dope.
Yeah, just because they always draft whoever you like.
Yeah, I am definitely biased in that way.
All right. We are out of here. Appreciate all of y'all. We'll see you again tomorrow at 1:30. Until then, we will talk to you later.